All right, welcome to week four, database design here. We're going to go over a little section here called data jobs. This is not in the book, but it is a requirement for the course. So I wrote up a thing here, and we can dive deeper into it as we get into class. But let's go ahead and pop over to the slide deck now. All right, so we're going to do an overview of careers in the data field. Now, obviously, this is not every job out there, and this is a brief overview of what's going on, but let's just kind of roll through some of these so you have an idea of the different jobs people do working in data. First, we start off with the database administrator, or DBA. They build, manage, maintain database servers. They generally work in an IT department. They're normally part of the IT department. They're responsible for things like data security, providing user access. They run and test the backups in the solution system. They do a lot of what they call tuning of the database so that it runs faster. Let's actually add that. So they tuning and query tuning. And they concern themselves with like the database indexes, which we'll get into indexes in a later class. If I could spell, we'll get here. Maintain indexes. All right. So that's a DBA. Now go on to data architect. Data architect, they are like designers. They design databases and data models. They design organizational data infrastructure. So you really got to think about it's beyond just a single database where you want to look at a large organization like within Verizon I work at. We have that I know of like 26 different data warehouses, and which are massive data repositories. So you need architects that can kind of try to figure out, well, what goes on which warehouse, why, how do we connect, and that kind of thing. They develop and maintain things called data dictionaries, which are what lets you know what's in the database, what that weird term means, because sometimes field names are just, a number that doesn't mean anything to you. And they are usually responsible for setting data governance policy. Now, data governance, it's a big buzzword out there. It's actually, it could be an entire job for people. And what data governance maintains is who has access to the data. How is the data, do we have specially protected data like people's medical information or credit card information or stuff like that? How do we audit to ensure that only people that need access to the data have it? Because that happens a lot where you'll get access to a data set, then you change jobs within the organization, then they forget to take your access away even though you don't need it anymore. So data governance is a real focus on a lot of that. And it's a lot of legal, it's a lot of paperwork, but it's probably I should put that as a job itself, but we'll go on to the data engineer. Now, data engineer it's a hot job now. This is probably one of the hottest jobs out there. And they develop and maintain data pipelines. They design what's called ETL processes, extract, transform, load. They pick up data from different places and move it to areas to be worked on. They work with big data. Now, big data does not mean a lot of data. Big data means fast-moving data. It has to have velocity, volume, things like that. So think about Google searches, or you think about how many tweets are put up on Twitter every how fast they move, things like the nature. Thinking of logs, like you look at network logs through Splunk and stuff. They prepare data for analytical use, and analytical use means to analyze the data. So for tools like dashboarding and BI, and kind of stuff, which means they clean and they migrate the data, and they develop data models to be used by these analytical tools, which means a data model is taking the data and putting it in a certain format so it can be used by these analytical. Your data analyst, this is the person to analyze the data set. They collect, clean, and analyze data sets. They generally focus, collects, cleans, analyze. General focus on business needs. They're not, your data analysts are more on the business side of it, where like your DBAs and your architects, your engineers, they may sit more on the IT side here. Your data analyst normally works in a business department unit. They may not even have IT. They could be basic SQLs all they know. They're not really your IT type people. They perform statistical tests on the data. They also develop statistical and machine learning models to look at the data. They create reports and visualizations, and they develop and maintain dashboards. Which, if you know what a dashboard is, basically you see them all the time when you go to airports and stuff, and you know where the planes are going. That's a dashboard. It's visualization, so you can quickly look at data. Let's go ahead. Let's pop to the next one now. Is data scientist. This is what I do. Find patterns and trends in data sets to uncover insights. Create algorithms and data models to forecast outcomes. We use machine learning techniques to improve on the quality of data or data product offerings. If you don't know what machine learning is, it is basically artificial intelligence. It's the basic fundamentals behind it. So there's two types of machine learning. There's supervised and there's unsupervised. Supervised is where I look at called labeled sets where I know the answer. I've got data, so I can look at like a credit card fraud data set, and I've already been labeled as these are fraudulent. So I can use that data to have the computer read through all these rows and say, oh, these X numbers are fraudulent. So when I feed it new data, it can say, ooh, is this a fraudulent one or not? The other side is unsupervised, and that's where you're looking at more like language, that kind of stuff, where you don't really have an end goal so much as you want to try to see what commonalities exist, what patterns do we find in this data that might be meaningful. So when they do that, they build that, they communicate recommendations to other teams and senior staff. Your data scientists are normally management type level type thing, where you're up there, principals. So you're talking with the higher level staff generally. They deploy data tools such as Python, R, SAS, and or SAS, and SQL in data and analysis, and they stay on top of innovations in the data science field. So that's the basics. You know, I could have added a bunch more jobs like a BI engineer, or but that's data. So many of these jobs, they cross over so much, and you see so many things in common that. And you'll see the names will change all the time because it's kind of trendy. But right now, so just for this, just think of these: get the database administrator, data architect, engineer, analyst, and data scientist. Again, there's a lot more jobs out there in data. I just wanted to highlight a few of the more prominent ones. All right, thanks a lot. Look forward to seeing you next class.